Hello everyone. Welcome to another Dragon Legion Raids stream. This time we will be reading Clanbook Ravnos. Right up, oh, right up by Ted Haggard. Yes. Um, this one is not a very long one, so the stream also will be probably rather short. Mostly because this write-up belongs to the group of the abandoned ones, which means that the author just have not finished the whole thing. But before that, a bit of context that can be useful. Because we are today we are reading a World of Darkness book, a clan book, if you so desire, which depicts one of the multitude of clans that there exist in the Vampire the Masquerade game. These books mainly were focused on telling the players how they can depict their characters coming from different clans in different ways, so that they appear more unique and stand out by being rooted in the vast lore of the World of Darkness in Vampire the Masquerade. This one we will be talking about today came out during the second edition of the Vampire the Masquerade, and it is not a good book. Both because it came out during second edition when the ideas were still up in the air, and because it touches on Clan Ravnos, which is, well, you will see. But it is not a good book. But one of the purpose of those reads is that we will both share useful information about books that deserve some praise and books that absolutely deserve none. So yes. Also a bit of a warning that this write-up may include words that seem derogatory and offensive to different groups that exist, and that Dragon Legion as an association does not stand for any slander towards this group. We are just, giving the meaning of the text. Unless the author obviously goes on a rant where they also share their own thoughts about things they don't like, in which case I will just try to censor some of those nasty words. But other than that, yes, we do not stand for slander about persecuted groups. That is not nice. Don't do that. And coming from that, we can go into the only chapter, the introduction, which starts with a heading: Let's experience Clanbook Ravnos. The obligatory introductionary fiction. It begins with the box standard introductory fiction, this one being about a lady named Gwen who stole some stuff from an archaeological dig to sell to a vampire named Johann. The very first thing in this book is about theft, and it continues that Gwen has been stealing from dig sites for her whole archaeological career. This isn't horrible as introductionary fiction in a vacuum, but, well, I'll give WW, which is White Wolf, credit that let us know. No, I will. No, But well, I will give no, Jesus. Excuse me, I will just start from the beginning. This isn't horrible as introductory fiction in a vacuum, but well, I will give White Wolf credit. They let us know what to expect. Okay. It continues as she's called to the dean's office, and we find out she has a PhD and has been stealing from dig sites for her entire time as an archaeologist. She ends up with, surprise surprise, Johann, who she called for help. Predictably, she finds out Johann is a vampire and then is embraced. So far, every Ravnos in this book has been involved in theft. Let's see if it gets any better from here. Chapter 1, Agreed Upon Lies. An obligatory clan history chapter. I think I will let the book speak for itself on this one and give you some of the highlights. Much of it is just dull metaplot and fake history. If you are looking for detail on that, you will have to go elsewhere. I'm here for the terrible, not the dull. And now to quote from the book. The Black Mother's children spread throughout the Roman Empire and made their presence known. Though few in number, they got on well with the Toreador and Malkavians, the three clans that made up some of the most decadent of kindred in that era. These Ravnos eventually became known as the Sybarites and founded the path of paradox that has earned the clan so much distrust and outright hatred, though the clan's predilection for vice in general likely also had something to do with it. Another quote. In India, Chandraputra assembled a new order with a stronger commitment to opposing the Asuratizaya. He had learned something about kindred psychology and mixed the philosophical rhetoric with appeals to the Ravnos' selfish character. In other words, he convinced the clan that it was in their best interest to stand and fight rather than live for parts unknown. And now a small big between. Now the path of paradox comes in, and the book states that it's used by the Sybarites, who are basically proto-Ravnos, to justify their hedonism, selfish behavior, and indulgence. In fact, I think here I'm going to let the book damn itself again. And another quote. The Sybarites took the teachings and twisted them to support a philosophy of unhindered self-indulgence. The path of paradox became an excuse for them to do whatever they wanted, to whomever happened to be convenient. Of course, the path of paradox didn't really encourage this behavior. The Sybarites were already well on their way down the road. The addition of a codified ethos that justified their hedonism was simply the final straw that ushered in nearly 2 millennia of indulgence and sin. It didn't help matters that Chandraputra's messengers slid into the Roman Ravnos debauchery and vice. In fact, they adopted it wholeheartedly. They drank the blood of children, fornicated like still living mortals, and bought tangible comforts with money they stole from each other, their kindred fellows and wealthy mortals. Another small part. The path of paradox itself is described a few paragraphs later as, another quote, the Roman path of paradox was an odd beast. On the one hand, it espoused spiritual purity. On the other, it claimed that its adherents could achieve such purity through diablerie, theft, and murder. Before we get into the Roma-Ravnos connection, let's have a bit more about what the beast is like for the clan. I'm sure White Wolf won't be playing into anything here. Another quote. No matter whether it drives us to drain a human drive, go utterly insane and kill anything within arm's reach, or simply to grab the trinket that catches our eye regardless of the risk. The last one is the most insidious because it's so subtle. Half the time I'm following through on the impulses before I realize what's happening. Never mind that, then. Moving into the Middle Ages, nomadic group of Ravnos arrived with the Roma, slowly filtering into Europe over 300 years. As for what the book has to say about them, yet another quote. These Ravnos, who had been Chandalas in India, felt themselves superior to the Western Ravnos, who had diluted their pure blood by embracing those not of Indian or Roma descent. How do they deal with their inferiors? Well, as they aren't completely without mercy, they do things like this. And the last quote: would often use tactics such as branding and boiling and killing mortal relatives and various larcenies to recruit Europeans rather than destroy them out of hand. Of course, larceny had to be shoehorned in there because we are about to get to the treatment, which comes right after the other kindred's attitude toward the Ravnos being described as they have always been Roma. That, however, will be a second pause because I need some scotch before I can handle any more of this without sobbing into a bottle of whiskey. Stay tuned for more. And, yes, that's all, basically. There is nothing else. The author never actually came back, so we only have to assume that the scotch was a lot for them. Yeah. I wish there was more so that we could actually experience more of it because, well, most of that write up has been just quotes from the book without further context. So just allow me to add a bit more. Yes, basically the write-up focuses mostly on the fact that the Ravnos are hedonists, that they steal, that they embrace the Roma people and they come from India. And that has been a huge problem with the clan Ravnos in Vampire the Masquerade, because for most of its runtime, and honestly mostly up until the 5th edition of Vampire the Masquerade, Clan Ravnos has either been connected to the Romani, which the books were very apt to call them by their slur, or a bit into the cycle of its existence, they were just connected with the India part of the world, and also deeply connected with the caste system of India. And yes, it is probably not something out of this world to just clearly say that Clan Ravnos is one of the worst written clans in Vampire the Masquerade, and one that has been very hard to actually play as without feeling some kind of an ick, because people would have to indulge in some things that they most likely were never really interested in. But in 5th edition it changed, and for most part they are pretty playable. A lot of the most icky part were just retconned out of existence, and they are now just vampires who like to do crazy stuff. So, you know, that had been for this. It was a small text that we also just had to go through, and yeah, there is just not that much to say about it. It happened. It's a book that exists. There is also a Clanbook for the revised edition of Vampire the Masquerade. It's probably just a tad bit better, but it is hard to say. And yeah, there is nothing more left for me than to just say to stay with us, as there will be more to come. Good night.